first time I heard someone cough above my bedroom, I blamed the house. The second time I heard it, the police were standing in our driveway looking for my brother. And by the third night, I knew exactly who was hiding in our attic. The problem was, I was wrong. My name is Claire Holloway. And 3 years ago, my family learned that sometimes the most terrifying place a person can hide isn't in the woods. It isn't in an abandoned building. It isn't some underground bunker miles away from civilization. Sometimes, they're 6 inches above your ceiling, listening to you breathe, watching you sleep, and waiting for everyone downstairs to turn off the lights. It started on a Thursday afternoon. I was at work when my mother called me. Normally, I wouldn't have answered. My mother had a habit of calling about things that absolutely did not require a phone call. A strange charge on her credit card, a package she didn't remember ordering, somebody parking too close to her mailbox, that sort of thing. But that day, she called 3 times in less than 2 minutes. I finally stepped away from my desk and answered. "Mom?" She didn't say anything. All I could hear was breathing. "Mom?" Then she whispered my name. "Claire." Something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. "What's wrong?" "The police are here." I stood up. "What?" "They're outside." "Why?" Another pause. Then she said something I never expected. "They're looking for Nolan." Nolan was my older brother, 33 years old. Quiet. Short-tempered. The kind of person who could be charming when he wanted something and completely terrifying when he didn't get it. We hadn't spoken in almost 8 months. There wasn't one big argument that ended our relationship. It was more like 100 little things. The lying, the anger, the way every story he told somehow made him the victim. And then there was Marissa. Marissa Lane had dated my brother for nearly 6 years. At first, everybody loved her. She was funny. Smart. Patient. Probably too patient. Because over time, Nolan changed. Or maybe we just started noticing who he had always been. He checked Marissa's phone, wanted her location turned on, showed up at her job unannounced, accused male coworkers of sleeping with her. If she didn't answer his texts fast enough, he would call repeatedly until she did. Eventually, Marissa left, and Nolan didn't take it well. For months, he insisted they were getting back together. Marissa said otherwise. Then she filed a restraining order. That should tell you everything you need to know. I told my mother all of this, repeatedly. But mothers have a strange way of seeing the little boy inside the grown man, no matter what he's done. My mother always said, "He's hurting," as if being hurt gave him permission to hurt everyone else. So when she told me the police were looking for Nolan, my first question was, what happened to Marissa? My mother started crying. That was my answer. I left work immediately. My mother lived about 40 minutes away in the house where Nolan and I grew up. It sat at the end of a narrow road surrounded by woods. 2 stories, white siding, green shutters, a detached garage that leaned slightly to one side. The kind of house that seemed cozy during the day and unsettling after dark, especially during winter. When I arrived, there were 3 police cars in the driveway. An officer stopped me before I reached the front porch. "Who are you?" "Claire Holloway. I used to live here. That's my mother." He looked toward the house. "You're Nolan Holloway's sister?" "Yes." His expression changed slightly. Not fear, more like caution. "Do you know where your brother is?" "No." "When did you last speak with him?" "Months ago." "You haven't seen him recently?" "No." The officer watched me for a moment. Then he nodded. "All right, your mother's inside." I walked past him. That's when I saw 2 other officers checking the garage. Another walked around the side of the house. I felt cold despite the afternoon heat. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked 10 years older than she had the week before. "Mom." She stood and wrapped her arms around me. I could feel her shaking. "What happened?" She didn't answer immediately. A detective standing near the counter did. His name was Detective Harris. He was probably in his late 40s. Tired eyes. Gray starting to appear in his beard. He asked me to sit down. Then he told me. Marissa had been attacked outside her apartment earlier that afternoon. A neighbor heard her screaming and called 911. By the time paramedics arrived, she was barely alive. She had been stabbed several times. She died at the hospital. I remember staring at the detective's mouth while he spoke. Almost like I was watching a movie with the sound turned off. Marissa. Dead. Even after everything with Nolan, she had still texted me on birthdays. Still sent my mother Christmas cards. She had become part of our family. And now she was gone. Detective Harris continued. Security cameras had captured a dark SUV leaving the area shortly after the attack. A vehicle matching my brother's. They had also learned that Nolan had contacted Marissa several times despite the restraining order. Police had gone to his apartment. He wasn't there. His phone was off. Nobody could find him. My mother suddenly interrupted. "My son would never do that." Detective Harris looked at her. "Mrs. Holloway." You don't know him. I looked at her. Mom. No. She wiped her face. Nolan gets angry. Yes, he's made mistakes. But murder? She shook her head. No. Detective Harris didn't argue. He simply asked, "Has Nolan contacted either of you today?" No, I said. My mother hesitated. It was barely noticeable. But I saw it. So did Harris. Mrs. Holloway? No. The detective stared at her, then nodded. They searched the property for another 20 minutes. Garage, backyard, shed, basement. They even opened the old cabinets under the staircase, but there was no sign of Nolan. Before leaving, Detective Harris gave me his card. If either of you hear from him, call immediately. We will. His eyes moved toward my mother. Do not attempt to help him. She looked away. After the police left, the house became painfully quiet. I made coffee neither of us drank. My mother kept asking questions I couldn't answer. What if the police were wrong? What if someone stole Nolan's car? What if Marissa had another enemy? Eventually, I told her I was staying the night. She didn't argue. That should have been my first warning. My mother hated anyone staying over unexpectedly, even me. But that night, she seemed relieved. I slept in my old bedroom upstairs. It hadn't changed much. The walls were a different color, but the room still felt like mine. Same window facing the backyard. Same wooden closet door that never closed properly. Same tiny crack in the ceiling near the light fixture. I lay awake for hours. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marissa. I kept remembering one conversation we'd had about Nolan. Maybe a year before they separated. She had called me crying. Nolan had accused her of cheating again. I told her something I'll always regret. He loves you. He just gets jealous. Back then, I didn't understand how dangerous that sentence could be. Around 2 in the morning, I finally started drifting off, and that's when I heard it. A cough, directly above me. My eyes opened. I stared at the ceiling. Silence. Then, scratching. A slow dragging sound, like something moving across wood. I sat up. Our attic was above the second floor. Old house, old insulation, old pipes. I told myself it was a raccoon. We'd had squirrels up there before. Then came another sound. 3 soft knocks. Knock. 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 I froze. They were directly above my bed. I listened. Nothing. Eventually I got up. The attic entrance was in the hallway. A square wooden hatch in the ceiling with a pull-down ladder. I stood beneath it. The hatch looked closed. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. There was dust on the floor. Nothing unusual. Then my light moved across the carpet. I noticed something. A small piece of pink insulation. Then another. Then another. A trail leading from beneath the attic hatch, toward the stairs. My heartbeat quickened. I walked downstairs. Mom? No answer. The kitchen light was on, and my mother was standing in front of the refrigerator. I nearly screamed. Jesus, Mom! She spun around. What are you doing? What are you doing? She was holding a grocery bag. Couldn't sleep. I looked at the bag. Bread? Lunch meat. Bottled water. 2 apples. You're making sandwiches at 2 in the morning? Her face changed. Only slightly. But enough. Yes. For who? For me. 2 sandwiches? My mother stared at me, then smiled, but there was nothing natural about it. I'm hungry. She carried the bag into the living room. I followed. Mom, I'm tired, Claire. Did Nolan call you? She stopped walking. No. Are you sure? She turned. I already told the police. I'm not the police. No. She went upstairs. I stood there alone. I didn't believe her. I barely slept the rest of the night. The next morning, the grocery bag was gone. So were the sandwiches. I checked the trash. Nothing. Around 10, Detective Harris called. They had found Nolan's SUV abandoned 20 miles away. Inside, they'd discovered blood. They were waiting for testing. He asked again if Nolan had contacted us. I told him no. Then I almost mentioned what happened during the night. But I stopped. Because what was I supposed to say? My mother made sandwiches? I heard scratching? There was insulation on the floor? I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I said nothing. That afternoon, I drove home to grab clothes. When I returned several hours later, my mother was asleep on the couch. I carried my bag upstairs. The moment I reached the second floor, I smelled something. Sweat. Strong. Stale. Like someone who hadn't showered in days. The smell seemed strongest near the attic hatch. I stared at it. Still closed. Then I noticed something new. One corner wasn't sitting flush. There was maybe half an inch between the hatch and the frame. I called my mother's name. No answer. I slowly walked beneath it. Hello? Nothing. I felt ridiculous. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Above me. Slow. Controlled. Someone was holding their breath and failing. I stepped backward. The breathing stopped. I went downstairs. My mother was awake now. Mom. She looked up. Someone's in the attic. Her face went completely blank. For 1 second. 1 tiny second. Then she laughed. What? I heard someone. Claire. I'm serious. It's probably squirrels. Squirrels don't breathe like people. She stood. You're stressed. Then come upstairs with me. No. Why? Because I'm not climbing into an attic over some noise. You don't have to climb inside. Just stand there. She folded her arms. No. That confirmed it. My mother knew something. I grabbed my phone. What are you doing? Calling Detective Harris. She moved faster than I expected. She grabbed my wrist. Don't. We stared at each other. There are moments when the world seems to shrink. Everything becomes incredibly clear. The fear in her eyes, her grip on my wrist, the silence above us. He's here, I whispered. My mother started crying. My stomach dropped. Mom, he came last night. I pulled my hand away. You lied to the police. He was scared. He murdered Marissa. He says he didn't. Of course he says he didn't. Lower your voice. I stared at her, then slowly looked toward the ceiling. He's up there right now? She didn't answer. Mom. Yes. I backed away from her. Every instinct in my body told me to run. But this was my brother, the same person who taught me to ride a bike, the same person who used to let me sleep in his room during thunderstorms, and he was hiding directly above us after a woman had been murdered. How long? He came after you went to sleep. What? He knocked on the back door. Then why did I hear him before you went downstairs? My mother stopped crying. What? I heard someone in the attic before I saw you making food. She stared at me. That's impossible. No, it isn't. Claire, Nolan didn't get here until almost 3. I felt cold. What time? 2:50-something. I looked toward the stairs. The first cough I'd heard above my bedroom had been at 2:14. I knew because I'd checked my phone. 20 minutes before Nolan supposedly arrived. Maybe you're wrong. I'm not. Mom, maybe he was already here and lied about when he came. She shook her head. I watched him come through the back door. My eyes moved upward again. Something creaked above us. Neither of us spoke. My mother whispered, Nolan? No response. Then another creak, this time directly above the kitchen. I grabbed Detective Harris's card. My mother reached for me. Claire, please. No. He'll surrender. He had all night. He's my son. And Marissa was someone's daughter. That shut her up. I stepped toward the back door. That's when a voice came from upstairs. Claire? I stopped. My brother's voice. Weak. Hoarse. Claire, don't call them. My mother closed her eyes. I looked toward the stairs. Nolan? Floorboards creaked overhead. Then he appeared. Slowly. At the top of the staircase. I almost didn't recognize him. His clothes were filthy. There was dried mud on his jeans. His face looked gray. His hair was greasy. There were scratches along his neck. He held his hands where I could see them. Just listen to me. I couldn't move. Nolan, I didn't kill her. You need to turn yourself in. I will. Then let's call them. Not yet. He stepped down one stair. I stepped backward. His face twisted. You think I'm going to hurt you? I don't know what you're capable of anymore. That hurt him, or at least he wanted it to look like it did. Marissa was alive when I left. You were there? He hesitated. That was all I needed. Nolan, I went to talk to her. She had a restraining order against you. She was ruining my life. There it was. Not sadness, not grief, anger. She was telling people things about me, because they were true. You don't know anything about it. His voice exploded through the house. My mother flinched. Then everything became quiet. Nolan breathed heavily. I'm sorry. I reached for the doorknob behind me. He noticed. Don't. My hand stopped. I just need time. For what? He looked upstairs, and something about his expression changed. Fear. Real fear. To figure out how I'm getting out of here. My mother whispered, Nolan. He ignored her. I said, why were you in the attic? He looked at me. What? Mom said you came through the back door. I did. So why go upstairs? He stared at us. I didn't. My mother frowned. What do you mean? I've been in your old room. My skin prickled. No, you haven't. I went straight into Claire's room after I came inside. I shook my head. I slept there. No, last night after you left for work. I realized he meant that morning. He had arrived after I fell asleep, then hidden in my room once I went downstairs. Then who's in the attic? Nobody answered. My brother's eyes moved toward the ceiling. That's when I noticed how terrified he actually looked. I thought it was Dad, he whispered. Our father had been dead for 9 years. My mother whispered his name. Nolan. I know how it sounds. What are you talking about? He rubbed his face. When I was upstairs earlier, I heard someone walking over the bedroom. An animal. No. He shook his head. Too heavy. I stared at him. Maybe you went up there and forgot. I never went into the attic. Then what was the insulation on the floor? His face changed. What insulation? I felt my stomach tighten. Last night. My mother stepped closer to him. Nolan, stop. I'm telling you the truth. He looked at me. Did you hear knocking? I didn't answer. His eyes widened. 3 knocks? My mouth went dry. How do you know that? He looked upstairs. I've been hearing it all morning. A sound came from above us. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Moving slowly across the ceiling. My mother whispered, "Oh my God." Nolan backed down another step. Even he looked frightened now. I remembered something. A wildlife camera. Months earlier, my mother had complained about animals getting into the garage. I'd bought 2 cheap motion cameras. One was still in the cabinet near the laundry room. I grabbed it. What are you doing? I want to see what's up there. No. Nolan's response came instantly. I looked at him. Why? He didn't answer. That made my decision easy. I activated the camera. Then I placed it on top of a bookshelf upstairs facing the attic entrance. If that hatch opened, we would know. I wanted to leave immediately. My mother refused. She insisted Nolan would surrender once he calmed down. Nolan refused to go outside. And I made the biggest mistake of my life. I stayed. Partly because I didn't want my mother alone with him, and partly because I needed to know what was inside that attic. By evening, Nolan had become increasingly nervous. Every few minutes he stared at the ceiling. Around 7, my mother cooked dinner. Nobody ate. At 8:23, my phone vibrated. Motion detected. Upstairs hallway. I stared at the notification, then opened the camera feed. For several seconds, nothing happened. Empty hallway. Attic hatch. Then, the hatch moved. Slowly. One corner lifted. I stopped breathing. It opened perhaps 2 inches. Then 4. Then 8. A hand appeared. Dirty fingers curled around the edge. My stomach twisted. Mom, she looked at me. I turned the phone toward her. Nolan came closer. All 3 of us watched. The hatch opened completely. The ladder unfolded. First one section, then another. Someone started climbing down. Bare feet appeared. Filthy jeans. A dark sweatshirt. My mother screamed, because we recognized the clothes. They belonged to Nolan. I looked beside me. My brother was standing right there, watching himself climb down from our attic. What the hell? The figure on camera reached the floor. Its head remained lowered. Dark hair covered its face. Same height as Nolan. Same body. Same clothing. Everything. My brother whispered, "That's not me." The figure stopped, then slowly turned toward the camera. The image froze. No. I tapped the screen. The feed buffered, then returned. The hallway was empty. The attic hatch was closed again. What happened? My mother grabbed my arm. Where did it go? I replayed the clip. The figure descended, turned, and for one single frame, I could see its face, except it didn't have one. Not because it was blurred, not because of darkness. There was something where a face should have been. Something pale, smooth, featureless, like wet skin stretched over a skull. My mother whispered, "Call the police." Funny how quickly things change. An hour earlier, she had been willing to risk everything to protect Nolan. Now even she wanted armed men inside the house. I dialed Detective Harris. Nolan grabbed my phone. "Wait. Give it back. They're going to arrest me." "Good." He stared at me. For half a second, I saw the old Nolan again. The angry one. The controlling one. His hand tightened around my phone. "You don't understand. Give me the phone." "I didn't kill her." "Then prove it." His jaw flexed. My mother stepped between us. "Nolan." He looked at her. And that moment was enough. I snatched the phone back. Then something slammed upstairs. Bang. All 3 of us jumped. Another slam. Bang. Then footsteps. Running. Across the ceiling. Fast. Too fast. From one side of the house to the other. Nolan stumbled backward. "That's what I've been hearing." I called Detective Harris. He answered immediately. "Claire? My brother is here." Silence. Then his voice became very calm. "Where is he?" "At my mother's house." "Is he armed?" "I don't know." Nolan shook his head frantically. I ignored him. "And there's someone else here." "What do you mean?" "I don't know." That was when Nolan ran. He bolted upstairs. "Nolan!" My mother screamed after him. Detective Harris heard everything. "Claire, get out of the house, now!" I grabbed my mother. "Come on!" "But Nolan!" "Now!" We reached the back door. Then my brother screamed upstairs. Not an angry scream. Not a startled scream. A scream of pure terror. My mother ripped away from me. "Nolan!" She ran upstairs. Of course she did. And because apparently common sense disappears when family is involved, I followed. We found Nolan standing beneath the attic hatch. It was open. The ladder hung down. He was staring upward. Someone touched me. My mother grabbed him. "Come downstairs." "No. Nolan." He pointed into the attic. "Someone's up there." Then we heard it. Breathing. Slow. Deep. From somewhere inside the darkness. Detective Harris was still on my phone. "Claire," I whispered. "It's in the attic." "What is?" I couldn't answer. Red and blue lights suddenly flashed through the windows. Police were already arriving. Someone shouted outside, "Nolan Holloway, come outside with your hands visible." My brother panicked. "No." He grabbed the ladder. "I'm not going out." "Nolan, I'm not going to prison." Then he started climbing. My mother grabbed his leg. "Don't." He kicked free. I reached for him, but Nolan climbed into the attic and disappeared into the darkness. Police entered less than a minute later. Detective Harris found us upstairs. "Where is he?" I pointed upward. Harris looked at the open hatch. "He's in there." Officers surrounded the house. They called Nolan's name repeatedly. No response. Eventually, a tactical team arrived. They brought equipment, body armor, shields, a thermal camera. One officer aimed it into the attic. I stood downstairs with my mother. We could hear radio chatter. Then something changed. One officer called Harris over. They whispered. Harris looked at me strangely. "What?" He didn't answer. "What did they see?" Finally, Harris said, "2 heat signatures." My mother grabbed my hand. I looked at the ceiling. Nolan isn't alone. Police called into the attic again. "Nolan, come toward the hatch." For several minutes, nothing happened. Then my brother answered. His voice sounded distant. "I'm coming out." Police aimed their weapons toward the opening. A hand appeared. Then another. Nolan climbed down. He was crying, actually sobbing. "There's someone else up there." Officers handcuffed him. "Who?" "I don't know." "Is he armed?" "I don't know." They pulled him downstairs. As he passed me, Nolan looked directly into my eyes. "Don't let them leave you here." I didn't say anything. Then he whispered something I'll never forget. "I didn't make those holes." "What holes?" But police pulled him outside before he answered. The tactical team entered the attic. They searched for nearly an hour. Nobody else came out. Eventually, Detective Harris returned. "They didn't find anyone." "What about the second heat signature?" "We're not sure. That's impossible. There's insulation up there, pipes, electrical equipment. Thermal imaging isn't perfect." I stared at him. What holes was Nolan talking about? Harris hesitated. That terrified me more than anything. "Claire, what did you find?" He asked my mother to sit down. Then he told us. Someone had been living in our attic. Not for one night, not for one day, for months. They found blankets, empty food containers, water bottles, buckets, clothing, dozens of cigarette butts, and photographs. Pictures of my mother, pictures of me, pictures taken through windows, pictures taken inside the house. Some while we were sleeping. But the worst part was the holes. Small openings had been drilled through the attic floor. One above my mother's bedroom, one above the bathroom, and one directly above my old bed. The same place where I'd heard the cough. Police assumed Nolan had made them. Nolan denied it. Naturally, nobody believed him, especially after what they found next. Inside his abandoned SUV, detectives recovered Marissa's blood. They also found one of Nolan's jackets stained with blood. Security footage placed his vehicle near her apartment. Phone records showed he'd been following her. And eventually, Nolan confessed. Not immediately. It took nearly 14 hours. But he admitted that he'd confronted Marissa. She told him she never wanted to see him again. An argument started. Nolan claimed he lost control. Those were his words. Lost control. As if his hands belonged to someone else. As if the knife had made the decision. He stabbed her, then ran. Nolan was charged with murder. My mother stopped defending him after that. At least out loud. But something about the attic continued bothering me. Because Nolan insisted he'd never been inside it before that night. Detective Harris thought he was lying. So did everyone else. Except me. Because I had the video. The figure coming down from the attic. Wearing Nolan's clothes. While Nolan stood beside me. Detective Harris took the memory card as evidence. Months passed. Nolan eventually accepted a plea deal. I stopped visiting my mother's house. She moved in with my aunt. The house sat empty. Eventually, my mother decided to sell it. But before the sale, I went back one final time. I wanted my things. Old yearbooks, photographs, a jewelry box my grandmother gave me. It was afternoon. Bright sunshine. Perfectly normal. Still, stepping inside felt wrong. Every sound made me look at the ceiling. I packed quickly. Before leaving, I stood in my old bedroom. The police had covered the hole in the ceiling, but I knew exactly where it had been. Directly over the bed. I couldn't understand why Nolan would lie about making it. He had already confessed to murder. What difference would spying on his family make? Then my phone rang. Detective Harris. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Claire. Detective. Are you busy? I'm at my mother's house. Silence. You're there now? Yes. Are you alone? Something about his voice made my skin crawl. Yes. Leave. I looked toward the hallway. Why? Just get outside. What happened? Claire. He sounded nervous. I need you to walk outside right now. I grabbed my bag. Then I heard it. 3 knocks. Above me. Knock. Knock, knock. I froze. Claire? Detective Harris heard my breathing change. What is it? I whispered. I heard it. Heard what? Knocking. Silence. Then Harris said something strange. Don't look at the attic. My blood went cold. Why? Walk outside. I stepped into the hallway. The attic hatch was closed. I walked beneath it. Detective, what's happening? Harris exhaled. We reviewed the footage. What footage? The camera you gave us. I stopped. We've reviewed it dozens of times. So? We found something yesterday. What? There was more footage on the card than we realized. I stared at the attic hatch. What kind of footage? The camera started recording several hours before the clip you showed us. I remembered setting the camera on the bookshelf. Okay. Claire, your brother wasn't the first person who came out of the attic. I couldn't breathe. Harris continued. At 4:11 that afternoon, the hatch opened. My eyes stayed fixed on it. A person climbed down. Who? We don't know. What do you mean? They walked into your bedroom. My stomach turned. Was it Nolan? No. Then who? That's what we're trying to determine. Something creaked above me. I started moving toward the stairs. What did they look like? Very thin. I reached the first floor. Tall. I grabbed the front door. And Claire. I stopped. What? The clothes they were wearing matched clothing found in the attic. I opened the door. Sunlight poured inside. I stepped onto the porch. Harris continued. We tested some of it. And? The DNA isn't Nolan's. I walked quickly toward my car. So somebody else was living there? Yes. Who? We don't know yet. I reached the driveway. Then Harris said, There's something else. I almost didn't want to hear it. The attic team found a section behind the chimney that they hadn't searched properly the first night. I turned toward the house. What was there? A crawl space. Okay. It runs between the walls. My mouth went dry. How far? Through most of the house. I pictured the upstairs hallway. My mother's room. My bedroom. The bathroom. Could someone move through it? Yes. The front door behind me slowly swung closed. I watched it. Claire. Yeah? Inside the crawl space, they found writing. What kind of writing? Dates. My heart started pounding. Your mother's schedule. I said nothing. Your work schedule. I gripped the phone. And your brother's. What? The person living in that attic had been tracking Nolan too. I suddenly remembered Nolan's face when he heard the knocking. His terror. The way he'd said, I thought it was Dad. How long? I whispered. How long had someone been living there? Harris was quiet. Then he said, Based on the dates? My stomach twisted. At least 11 months. 11 months. Long before Marissa died. Long before Nolan became a fugitive. Long before that terrifying night. Someone had already been above us, watching, listening, learning. I looked at the second-floor window. The curtain moved. I told myself it was air from a vent. Then I remembered. The electricity had been disconnected 2 weeks earlier. There shouldn't have been any air moving inside that house. The curtain moved again. This time, a hand appeared. It pressed against the glass. I dropped my bag. Detective. What? Someone's inside. Get in your car. I couldn't move. A person stepped behind the upstairs window. Tall. Thin. Its face hidden behind the curtain. Claire. I got into my car and locked the doors. Harris was already sending officers. The figure remained upstairs, watching me. I started the engine. Then it slowly lifted one hand and waved. I drove away. Police searched the house again. Every room, every closet, every inch of the attic. Nobody was there, but they did find something they had missed. Behind my bedroom wall was a narrow compartment, barely large enough for someone to crouch inside. There was a blanket, food wrappers, a flashlight, and hundreds of photographs. Most were of my family, but one group of pictures disturbed Detective Harris enough that he drove to my apartment personally to show me. They were photographs of Nolan. Some taken years earlier. Nolan leaving work. Nolan sitting inside restaurants. Nolan asleep in his apartment. Nolan arguing with Marissa. Someone had been following my brother long before he killed her. In the final photograph, Nolan was standing outside Marissa's apartment, the night she died. The picture had been taken from across the parking lot, which meant somebody had watched the murder and never called police. On the back of the photograph, someone had written 4 words. Now they'll blame him. Police never identified the person who lived in our attic. No fingerprints matched any database. No usable DNA matched any known person. Neighbors remembered seeing strange vehicles over the years. Nothing came from it. The house sold eventually. The new owners completely renovated the upstairs. They removed most of the attic, closed the crawl spaces, replaced the ceilings. For a while, I convinced myself it was over. Then, about 6 months after the house sold, I got an email. No subject, no name, no message, just one attachment, a photograph. I opened it. The picture showed me standing inside my new apartment, in my kitchen, making coffee. The photograph had been taken from behind me, inside my apartment. I called the police. They searched everything. Doors locked, windows locked, nothing missing, no sign of forced entry. They told me somebody could have taken the picture through a window. Except my kitchen doesn't have a window. I moved again. Then again, I stopped posting online, changed my phone number, changed jobs. I never told Nolan. I never told my mother. Eventually, the photograph stopped. Years passed. I began sleeping normally again. I started convincing myself that whoever had been in that attic had lost interest. Maybe they died. Maybe they were arrested for something else. Maybe they found another family. I don't like thinking about that last possibility. Then last Tuesday, something happened. I woke up at 3:13 in the morning. I don't know why. The room was completely dark. I lay still for several seconds. Then I heard a noise, directly above my bed. A cough. Soft, dry, human. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then came the scratching, slowly dragging across the ceiling. I reached for my phone, and before I could turn on the flashlight, I heard 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Exactly like before. I don't live in my mother's house anymore. I don't even live in the same state. But whoever was hiding above us back then apparently remembers me, because yesterday morning, I found a small pile of pink insulation on the floor beside my bed, and when I looked up, there was a fresh hole in the ceiling, directly above the place where I sleep. So tonight, I'm staying awake, because if that attic hatch opens, I finally want to see what's been following me. And if you're hearing this story because something happened to me, do one thing before you go to sleep tonight. Turn off the lights, put your phone down, and listen. Not to your windows, not to your doors. Listen above you, because the footsteps you keep blaming on the house might not be the house at all. And if you hear 3 knocks coming from your ceiling, whatever you do, don't knock back.